She begged me to be a father to her kids until I uncovered a secret that shattered everything. Would you still stay after learning the truth? Sometimes life throws you into situations that feel less like reality and more like the twisted plot of a movie. I never thought I'd be the guy questioning the very foundation of the family I was building, but here I am. For years, I believed I was stepping into the role of a loving partner and a supportive stepfather. My girlfriend had 2 kids from her previous relationship, and I was ready to help raise them as my own. But one discovery changed everything. Because it turns out, one of those kids isn't even hers. When I first met my girlfriend, she was open about being a single mom with 2 kids. I admired her strength. Raising children on her own isn't easy, and I respected the way she carried herself. From the very beginning, I tried to step into their lives carefully. I didn't want to be the kind of man who rushed in, only to disappear when things got complicated. Over time, I grew close to the kids. I helped with homework, went to school events, cooked dinners, even tucked them in when she was too exhausted after work. I told myself this was what a real man does. He supports the family, even if it's not his by blood. And for a while, I felt proud of the role I was taking on. The kids started calling me dad, and although it wasn't official, it warmed my heart every time. I thought we were building something stable, something long-lasting. But looking back now, I realized there were always little red flags, small comments she made, odd hesitations when I asked about the kids' past, and times when her stories didn't quite add up. At the time, I brushed them aside, convincing myself it didn't matter. They were her kids, and soon they'd be our kids, until the truth started to unravel in a way I never saw coming. The first crack in the story came one evening when her younger child, who was around 6 at the time, was drawing at the kitchen table. I asked a casual question, something innocent, like who he thought he looked more like, his mom or his dad. Without hesitation, he said, "Not my mom." She told me. I froze. My girlfriend was in the shower, so I gently pressed a bit more, asking what he meant. He shrugged in that way kids do, like it was nothing important, and said, "She said I came from someone else. But I still live here." It felt like the air was knocked out of me. I didn't know what to make of it. Kids say strange things sometimes, and maybe he just misunderstood something his mom told him. But the certainty in his voice stuck with me. That night, when she came out of the bathroom, I almost asked her directly, but I stopped myself. I didn't want to cause drama over something that might have been a child's imagination. Still, the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was impossible to ignore. Over the next few weeks, I started to notice other things I had overlooked before. The younger boy had features that didn't resemble her at all. Not her eyes, not her hair, not her complexion. He didn't even look like his supposed father, the man she once told me had walked out years ago. When people in public commented on how different the child looked from her, she would laugh nervously and quickly change the subject. And then, one day, curiosity got the better of me. I went through some old family photos she had kept tucked away in a drawer. That's when I found it. A hospital bracelet with her name on it, dated around the birth of her older child. But for the younger one, nothing. No hospital records, no baby pictures, not even a birth certificate in the pile. Something didn't add up, and I realized I might have been living in the middle of a lie bigger than I was ready to face. I couldn't get the thought out of my head. Every time I looked at that boy, I remembered his innocent little voice saying, "She told me I came from someone else." It replayed over and over like a broken record. I didn't want to accuse her without proof, but the silence was eating me alive. One evening, after dinner, I decided to test the waters. I casually asked her about the kids' baby pictures, telling her I thought it would be nice to make a scrapbook for them. She smiled at first but then got defensive, saying, "Oh, most of the old stuff is back at my mom's place." That would have been fine, except I already knew her mom didn't have them. I had been over there enough times to notice there were no albums. No framed photos of the younger one as a baby. The older child had plenty, but the little one? Almost nothing. It felt strange, like his early years had been deliberately erased. The next day, when she was at work and I was home, I decided to look deeper. I knew it wasn't right, but my gut told me something was terribly off. I went through the box of papers she kept in her closet, the same one where I'd seen the hospital bracelet before. I searched through folders, old bills, and random junk until I found what I was looking for. A folded envelope with the younger boy's name written on it. My hands were shaking when I opened it. Inside, there wasn't a birth certificate. Instead, there were some legal papers, custody agreements, guardianship documents, and a single piece of paper that stopped me cold. It was a signed statement giving her temporary custody from another woman's name. Not hers. Not the biological mother's full rights either. Just temporary guardianship that had apparently been extended again and again. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the documents. It all suddenly made sense. Why he didn't look like her, why there were no baby photos, why the boy himself said he wasn't hers. That night, when she came home, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked her, point blank, why don't you have a birth certificate for your younger son? Who is his real mother? She froze. For a long moment, she didn't even blink. Then she tried to laugh it off, saying I must have misunderstood something. But when I told her I'd seen the paperwork, her face drained of color. She sat down, put her head in her hands, and finally whispered, he's not mine. He never was. But I couldn't let him go. I'll never forget that night. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the kids already asleep, the house silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. She looked pale, almost sick, and when the words finally left her mouth, it was like the entire world tilted beneath my feet. He's not mine. He never was. At first, I thought I'd misheard her. My brain refused to process it. I actually laughed nervously, waiting for her to correct herself, to say she meant something else. But she just stared at me, her hands trembling, her eyes wide and glossy with tears. That's when the weight of her words crashed down on me. That I asked her again, slower this time, my voice sharp and cold. What do you mean he's not yours? And then, like a dam breaking, she confessed. Years ago, before I ever knew her, she had a friend. A close friend who was spiraling, caught up in drugs, unstable, unable to even feed herself most days. That friend gave birth to a baby boy, but everyone knew she wouldn't be able to keep him. Social services were already circling. Foster care was waiting. My girlfriend said she couldn't let that happen. She told me she stepped in, told the hospital staff and everyone else that she would take the baby, that she would raise him as her own. It was supposed to be temporary, just until the mother got better. But the mother never did. And as weeks turned into months, and months into years, people stopped asking questions. Neighbors, schools, even her own family. Everyone just assumed the boy was hers, and instead of correcting them, she let the lie grow. I sat there, stunned, my mind replaying every memory I had with that boy, the birthdays, the school plays, the times he called me by my first name, the way he smiled when I brought him a toy. All that time, I thought I was building a bond with her child. But now, I was realizing I had been kept in the dark, playing a role in someone else's secret. That I finally managed to ask, why? Why didn't you tell me this before? Why lie to me for all these years? She broke down then, covering her face with her hands. Through sobs, she admitted she was terrified. She thought if I knew the truth, I'd walk away. That no man would ever want to commit to a woman with 2 kids, and especially not one raising a child who wasn't even biologically hers. Her words stung, but what hit me hardest was when she admitted something else. She had never planned on telling me at all. She said it didn't matter, because what counts is love, not blood. She claimed that boy was hers because she fed him, clothed him, raised him, loved him, but all I could hear was the sound of trust shattering. That if she could keep something this massive from me, something that shaped her entire identity as a mother, what else was she hiding? What other truths had been buried beneath carefully chosen words and years of silence? I remember pushing back from the table, my chair scraping against the tile. The room suddenly felt too small, the air too heavy. She was pleading with me to sit down, to listen, to understand. But my heart was racing, my chest tight. I paced the kitchen like a caged animal, trying to process the avalanche of lies that had just fallen on me. And the worst part? A thought I couldn't escape, no matter how hard I tried. If she had been lying to me about this all along, was I really in love with the woman I thought she was? Or just the illusion she created? That night, I barely slept. I tossed and turned, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word she had said. My mind was a battlefield, anger on one side, heartbreak on the other. And somewhere in between was this crushing sense of betrayal I couldn't shake. Why morning. My chest felt heavy, as if I had been carrying a weight all night long. When I looked at her, lying beside me with swollen eyes from crying, I felt nothing but distance. A wall had gone up, built from every lie she had told me, every truth she had buried. But then, I heard the sound of little feet padding down the hallway. The boy. He peeked into our room, his messy hair sticking up, holding onto his toy dinosaur like he always did in the mornings. He climbed up onto the bed and curled against my side, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And that's when it hit me like a punch to the gut. He had no idea. He had no clue that the mom who raised him wasn't his real mother. To him, this was just life. To him, I wasn't just some guy dating his mom. I was the man who played catch with him in the yard, who helped him with his math homework, who showed up at his school concerts and clapped the loudest. My anger toward her clashed with the affection I felt for him. The kid was innocent. He didn't ask to be born into this mess, didn't ask to be lied to, didn't ask to be raised in a house built on secrets. And yet, he was the one most vulnerable to the fallout of this revelation that I kept asking myself. What does this mean for him? If I walk away, am I abandoning a child who sees me as a father figure? If I stay, am I sacrificing my own trust, my own peace, just to protect someone else from pain? Later that day, I tried to confront her again, but the conversation went nowhere. She kept insisting that love makes a family, that I shouldn't focus on biology, that what she did was out of compassion and necessity. She painted herself as a savior, as someone who rescued a child from a life of misery, but that wasn't the point. The point was trust, partnership, honesty, and in all those areas, she had failed me. The worst part? She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "If you really loved me, this wouldn't matter." And that single sentence felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Because love wasn't supposed to mean blind acceptance of betrayal. Love wasn't supposed to mean swallowing lies just to keep the peace. That night, when the boy hugged me goodnight and whispered, "I love you," I almost broke down. For the first time in years, I didn't know what to say back. Because in that moment, I realized I was standing on the edge of an impossible choice. Do I protect my own heart and leave this house of lies behind? Or do I stay and sacrifice myself for a child who never asked to be caught in the middle? Over the next few days, the tension in the house was suffocating. Every word between us felt heavy. Every silence screamed louder than any argument. I tried to keep things normal for the boy, but inside, my mind was unraveling that I started noticing little cracks in the story she had told me. The kind of details you never pay attention to until you've been lied to. For years, she had said she didn't have many photos from when the boy was a baby. She'd laugh it off, saying, "I wasn't really into taking pictures back then." But now, I realized, maybe there weren't photos because she wasn't there at all. Then I remembered how, whenever anyone asked about the boy's father, she'd shut the conversation down instantly, brushing it off with vague excuses, "He's not in the picture," or "It's complicated." At the time, I respected her privacy. Now, I saw it for what it was, another carefully constructed wall of lies. And yet, the boy himself would sometimes mention things, little fragments that didn't make sense. Once, he told me he remembered a lady with long hair singing to him when he was very little. I thought nothing of it back then, assumed it was his mom before she cut her hair short. But now I wondered if that was his real mother. Every memory, every conversation, every odd silence came back to me like puzzle pieces I had ignored. And the more I thought about it, the more furious I became. This wasn't just a small omission. This was a massive deception, one that shaped the foundation of our relationship. But then the guilt crept in again. Because every time I wanted to confront her, every time I wanted to pack my bags and walk out, the boy would come running up, asking me to help with a Lego build, or proudly showing me a drawing he made at school that he trusted me. He looked at me like I was his rock, his anchor, the one person he could depend on. And I couldn't shake the thought, if I walked away, what would happen to him? Would he lose not just me, but the sense of stability he had clung to all this time? At night, I would sit alone in the kitchen, staring at the glow of the refrigerator light, wondering how much more of this I could take. Was I strong enough to raise someone else's child, someone who wasn't even hers, knowing the entire relationship was built on secrets? Or was I just prolonging the inevitable collapse of everything we had? And then, as if fate wanted to push me further into the storm, I got a message that shook me to my core. It was from someone I didn't recognize. A stranger. But their words cut deeper than anything she had ever confessed. The message came late at night, when the house was finally quiet, and the only sound was the hum of the fridge. I was scrolling absent-mindedly on my phone, trying to distract myself from the gnawing pit in my stomach when the notification popped up. The sender was an unfamiliar name. No profile picture, just a plain account. At first, I thought it was spam until I read the opening line. "You don't know me, but you need to hear the truth about the boy you're raising." My blood went cold. I read the sentence over and over, almost unable to process it. My hands shook as I clicked the message open, and the words spilled out like venom. The stranger claimed to know the boy's biological mother, claimed she was very much alive, that she had been forced to give him up years ago under circumstances that were anything but voluntary. And the worst part? According to this person, my girlfriend knew about it the entire time. They said she stepped in, not out of charity or love, but out of convenience, because raising a child made her look responsible, mature, like someone who had sacrificed for love. Meanwhile, the real mother had been silenced, cut off, left to live with the pain of losing her son. That I stared at the screen, my heart hammering so hard it felt like it would break my ribs. It sounded insane, impossible even. But deep down, a chilling part of me believed it. Because suddenly, everything lined up. The missing photos, the vague excuses, the strange inconsistencies. And then came the final blow. The message ended with, "If you don't believe me, ask her why she never let you meet her family. They know the truth. Everyone does. Except you." My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe. I set the phone down, but the words burned into my mind, repeating themselves until I thought I'd go mad. I wanted to storm into the bedroom, shake her awake, demand answers. But I didn't. I just sat there in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the table, trying to decide whether I was ready for the truth, whatever it turned out to be. Because if what this stranger said was true, then I wasn't just living with lies. I was living in a carefully built illusion. And the woman I loved might be someone I never really knew at all. That you'd think after everything I had already discovered, nothing could shock me anymore. But I was wrong. The night I finally confronted her is burned into my memory forever. I sat across from her at the kitchen table, the documents still in my hand, and I asked her the one question that had been clawing at me for days. "Are you absolutely sure these children are yours?" For a second, she froze. Her face went pale, her lips trembled, and in that silence, I felt my entire world tilting. She didn't rush to defend herself. She didn't even act confused. Instead, she lowered her eyes, and that was the moment I knew. The truth was something she had been hiding from me, and she was about to unravel. When she finally spoke, it wasn't the denial I had expected. It was hesitation, excuses, half answers. She mumbled something about not remembering, details about a time when her life had been messy, and each word felt like a hammer smashing down on what little trust one had left. The gaping hole in my chest turned into anger. I couldn't understand how someone could look me in the eyes for months, even years, and pretend everything was normal, all while expecting me to step in as a father figure to children who might not even be hers. That was the night I realized this wasn't just about lies. This was about manipulation on a level I had never imagined. That night turned into the longest one of my life. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't even sit still. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the faces of those kids, innocent, trusting, looking at me as if I were already their father. And then I saw her face, the lies, the hesitation, the way she avoided the truth until she had no choice but to let it slip through her silence. By the time morning came, I knew what I had to do. I wasn't just walking away from her. I was walking away from a life built on lies, from a role I had been forced into without consent, from a future that had been scripted for me without my knowledge. When I confronted her one last time, I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I was calm, maybe too calm, and that scared her more than my anger ever could. I told her I knew enough, more than enough, and that I could never stay with someone who twisted reality to trap me. She tried to cry, tried to tell me that she did it all because she loved me, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. Love doesn't come with conditions. Love doesn't come with lies. That I told her I hoped the kids would grow up happy, that they deserved stability and care, but it wasn't going to be from me. I packed my things, walked out that door, and with every step I took, I felt the weight of her lies lifting off me. But even now, as I look back, I can't shake the lingering thought. If I hadn't discovered the truth when I did, how long would she have kept the lie alive? How long would I have been living someone else's story, believing it was my own? That question haunts me, and it's the reason I'll never let anyone write my future without my consent ever again. Thank you for watching this story on True Tales Hub. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next story that we post new tales twice a day, and each one comes with unexpected twists you won't see coming.